It is long known that the fairies are out in force in the month of May, which is fabulous, but as with all things fairy, is also complicated. The month of May is the one time in the year that you are most likely to see a fairy, be attacked, abducted, seduced, or tricked by a fairy. This has to be, without doubt, the most dangerous time of the year to go fairy spotting. Hi, I'm Kitty. Welcome to Fairy Encounters. I have a theory as to why the fairy behave this way towards us in the month of May. But first, we need to understand a little thing called Beltane. Why does the Celtic fire festival of Beltane cause such chaos with fairies? Well, Beltane is a particularly vibrant celebration. For our friends in the Northern Hemisphere, it marks perhaps the most welcome transition that occurs in the natural world, and that is the coming of spring. And I think our behaviour at this time captures the attention of the fairy, which is in equal parts fabulous and dangerous. Beltane has been celebrated in some form since the Iron Age. Of course, back then they didn't count down the days to Beltane on their calendar like some of us do, but they marked the day as falling midway between the spring equinox and the summer solstice. There are 4 major Celtic festivals throughout the year, and all are practiced in line with the ebb and flow of nature. Beltane in the Northern Hemisphere marks the coming of summer after the long, cold months of winter. The warmth and fertility of spring represent the beginning of a cycle in farming, and everyone would be hoping for a fruitful year for their families and for the fertility of their fields and their animals. Many bonfires are lit to honour the sun and encourage the support of Bel and the sun's light to nurture the emerging future harvest and also to protect the community. Both the flames and the smoke from the bonfires are central to the Beltane celebration, as it's believed that they cleanse, purify, heal, and even increase fertility. So for these reasons, people in communities would walk or even dance around the various bonfires, while others would chance themselves to jump over the bonfire in hope that it would bring them good fortune and happiness in the coming year. Of course, with the coming of summer, farmers would be preparing their livestock to be put out to pasture, but before they did this, they would drive their cattle between bonfires at the Beltane festival so that the smoke would cleanse and protect and ensure the fertility of the herd before they were put out to the fields. Beltane celebrations take place in countless locations on the 30th of April, but perhaps one of the best known is on Calton Hill in Edinburgh, where thousands of people come together for a huge celebration to mark the coming of summer. The evening begins with a procession to the top of the hill, led by a woman and a man, gorgeously and intricately decorated to represent the May Queen and the Green Man, the ancient god and goddess figures symbolising fertility and growth, the earth and the sky. Hundreds of torchbearers carry purifying flames, and mighty wooden arches are set aflame to represent the gateways between the earthly world and the spirit world. The procession is followed by much dancing and singing and loud drumming, and eventually the May Queen and the Green Man, representing the earth and the sky, join in a rapturous union, and celebrations begin in earnest. Of course, an important element of Beltane festivals were the courting and fertility rituals, where young men and women would collect blossoms in the woods during the day and light fires in the evening before often disappearing into the darkness together. These rituals often led to matches and marriages, either immediately in the coming summer or in the autumn. We can imagine, can't we, the young men and women prancing around, highly decorated in flowers and painted skin, trying to impress each other with their strength and beauty. It would be a joyous sight. But let's pause a moment and remember that the fairy are watching all of these rituals with, I'm sure, great interest and delight. And knowing this leads me to my theory. If you love exploring the fairy realm with me, please consider becoming a member of the channel. Your support will genuinely help me to continue creating these videos. And you get some sweet treats too. Just click on the join button below to check it out. Another Beltane custom is that all household fires in the community would be doused and then relit from the Beltane bonfire. This is a ritual that I particularly love because it's a way for all the folk in the community to be connected by sharing the sacred flame of the Beltane fire. Then after the many rituals have taken place, the community would gather to share a mighty feast, and some of the food and drink would be offered to the Sidhe or the fairies. That's lovely, isn't it? I love it. And I'm sure that they appreciate that gesture. And the food and the ale too, no doubt. But that's not all our ancestors would get up to. Yellow flowers, such as primrose, gorse, hazel and marigold, were loosely strewn around doorways and windows, and sometimes plaited into bouquets, garlands or even crosses and fastened to them. But they would also attach these flowers to cows and to their tools and equipment for milking and butter making, because it was believed that these particular flowers invoked fire. Some folk would also make a May bush, which is a thorn bush decorated with flowers and ribbons and bright shells. Holy wells were also visited, and people would pray out loud to their gods for health in the coming year, while they walked sunwise, which is from east to west, around the well, and then leave offerings of coins or shells or flowers. Beltane is a particularly exciting time for the ladies. Before the break of dawn, young girls, with their mothers and aunties and grandmothers too, would take to the fields for to touch their faces onto the morning dew on leaves and grass. This was a very important ritual for all those young'uns who wished to have beautiful, glowing skin for the coming year, while for the older ladies, they believed that Beltane dew helped them maintain their youthfulness. So there's a little bit about Beltane. It sounds like an altogether wacky time, doesn't it? Certainly the ordinary routine and rituals of everyday living were completely abandoned for that one day. Now, many believe that the veil between us and the fairy realm is at its thinnest at times like Beltane, times when a powerful shift is occurring in the cycle of the natural world. So it follows that fairy activity and interaction is more common than at other times. I can't help but wonder if, to the fairy watching this, it looks like humans have lost their minds, building fires everywhere and circling around them over and again, some even jumping over them and kicking at the flames. We lead our animals through the smoke and dress ourselves in flowers and branches. We're banging drums and chanting, decorating our homes and our animals and our tools in flowers, circling wells and celebrating thorny trees, rubbing our faces in wet grass and forming unions in the darkness. It sort of sounds like all bets are off, doesn't it? Ordinary life is abandoned and a free-for-all is the new normal. You have to wonder what the fairy think when they see our Beltane celebrations. Do you think it's possible that this joyous, celebratory behaviour is more akin to life in a fairy society? The rituals and observance are all outdoor activities. Nature is embraced and revered, and her resources are shared among all. People are lively. They have shrugged off the shackles which usually bind them. Their hearts and minds are bursting with rapture and hope and thoughts of growth and fertility. I wonder, do the fairy love the new us, released from our usual inhibitions? The fairies see humans behaving the way they do at Beltane and are encouraged by our joyous and optimistic and inclusive celebrations, our regard for the natural world, and our embrace of our own wild spirits. Do they gleefully think, "You little ripper, finally!" And so begin several weeks of sightings and interactions between us and the fairies. They don't feel the need to conceal themselves as they usually do because we are behaving more like them. But, and here's the spanner in the works, come May 2nd, we return to the old ways. The roaring fires of Beltane are nothing but cold ash. The drummers have fallen silent. Our painted bodies are washed clean, and flower decorations are pulled down or left to wilt and die. The cows so lovingly walked through the smoke are put out to the field, and all the noise and colour and enthusiasm are replaced by serious faces, those with and those without, families remembering their old grievances and the calling in of loans, the return of rules and fences and what is yours and what is mine. I think they don't like it. Their patience, which they have for the most part maintained over the ages, dissipates. And for those few weeks of May, fairy don't even try to hide their disdain, their impatience with our determination to remain small-minded and closed off from the natural world. What do you think? Next week, I have an unforgettable story from Scotland of a truly creepy encounter which occurred at Beltane and served, for those who were paying attention, as a forewarning of what or who would appear in the coming days. Keep an eye out for that one next Friday. Until then, stay curious and be especially kind, because you seriously do not want to upset a fairy in the month of May. Cheerio!